Hi, Changemakers! Welcome to this Design for Change Empathy podcast. Design for Change is a movement of youth-led changemaking. Students around the world are going through the steps of feel, imagine, do, and share to co-create solutions for social issues they care about. We're excited you're joining. In this Empathy podcast, our topic is gender equity. Our topic is aligned with Global Goal 10, Reduced Inequalities. Today, we're going to hear from Oliver, Catherine, and Patrick Sasser. Let's begin with how their stories and understanding might inform us more on this issue.
My name's Oliver. I'm a student at Russell Boulevard Elementary, and I'm a member of the Pod School, and
Yeah, and I am Oliver's mom, and I use she, her pronouns, and I am an educator by trade. I started teaching over 15 years ago.
Yeah, my name is Patrick. I am also an educator. I'm a teacher here in Columbia. I teach mostly high school students in digital media, and I'm also a track coach coming off of a state championship.
So gender equity is really important in our family, and in particular, being accepting and inclusive of all identities is critical. And that really started, that story of us caring so much about that started when we had Oliver. So she identifies as a transgender, and really even before she could talk, even as she started to walk, we started to notice ways that she expressed herself that were new to us or unexpected as we understood a male assigned at birth. So one really strong memory I have is coming home from work and her running in the door and running straight up to my room and grabbing my high heels and clomping around every single day, clomping down the wood floor in my high heels. And she did it better than I did, I think, even at that age. And so we just saw as she grew up, she would express herself in really feminine ways. She loved playing make-believe with unicorns and princesses, and gravitated towards just really kind of feminine expression. And so that was really the first piece of then kind of us opening up to understanding gender inclusivity. Understanding gender inclusivity is really demystifying or stop creating a binary around gender, right? It doesn't have to look a certain way to be a boy or a certain way to be a girl. So I think that was probably our first step in helping Oliver have space to expand and be who she is just, okay, this isn't traditionally what, Pat grew up experiencing as a boy who grew up, or what I expected as a mom of who I thought was a boy at the time. And that's okay. And we're going to create spaces for her to explore and pretend and be who she is. And so that was really kind of our first probably marker of trying to understand and create an open home for her.
I grew up in a house. I had three brothers, so I'm a middle of four boys. And I think, like, for me, just growing up, I think we all certainly like establish like a picture of what we think it is like to raise children. Like for me, that picture kind of started when I was like 10 years old. I can remember like my dad was a quarterback in college, and I can remember going outside in the Texas heat with him and just like throwing the football around. And I thought, like that is like what it is to parent. That's what it's going to look like to raise my child. And so like, I think kind of understanding that we all have these like ideas in our head about what it means or what it's going to look like or how it's going to work to raise a child. I think that was something that like I really had to process through and think about, was like, and this is not expectations like this. These are not things that like, may want to do, but those were expectations that I was placing on her, like, that are like unfairly, like those are things that I thought that I wanted that were important to me for some reason. And I think like those were established even before I knew Oliver, like way before she was born. I lived in Texas with my dad in 1994. So that was many, many, many years ago. And so to think like this idea, this picture started developing even before O was born was something that I had to work through and kind of let go of for sure.
When I was a lot younger, how they expressed to me was like, you're a boy, this is what you do, and this is how you're supposed to do it. But over the years of how I've established myself and shown who I really am, they started to develop, and so have my friends, and I feel like they're really opening up to people like me, and they're helping me and other people. Really glad that they opened up for me, and all my friends and teachers and everybody like that accepted me as who I am, not as someone who I was supposed to be. It made me feel like I was truly one of them, and I was really accepted, and I felt like they really loved me and they cared for me, not like someone who says, this is how you're supposed to be. I really, really liked it, and I felt that they were kind of like family. So a lot of people who have been raised a certain way feel like that's the certain way that other people should be raised, but only when you've had the experience of someone who, like me, who is transgender, then you know how it hurts and how it feels. If everyone had that experience, I don't think there'd be people who are being mean to people like me.
So you feel like you wish more people knew someone who's transgender so they could understand their experience more?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much the most eloquent thing I've heard. That was really good. I really appreciate that.
I think what I would say is I wish you knew what it was like for a person who doesn't show up as the norm, what that experience is. So when Oliver goes to school every day and she has to educate folks so that they know what her pronouns are and that they know where she should be going to the bathroom. And I wish people knew the labor that she carries and that other transgender kids and people carry around creating a more safe world for themselves. And it's not always because people are intentionally hostile, but it's because a lot of our systems aren't built to support diverse identities. So, in typical literature books in her classroom, she's not going to see kids that look like her necessarily, unless she has a teacher or a school that has done that work. So I think I wish people knew how that feels every day to get up and know that kind of who you are in the world requires you to educate and take on labor just so that you can be safe.
If I was addressing that, I would say, I wish you knew that the world, like at large, I think is more accepting than we like initially think or give it credit for. So I know for me, like initially I was a part of the roadblock in Oliver expressing who she was because I wanted to protect her from the world. I wanted to protect her from being hurt. And I like a little anecdote about that is like, I can remember the very first time that O and I went out in public and she was wearing a dress and she must have been 4 or 5 years old. And I was petrified that I would see someone that I knew. I can remember, we went to Sam's and I love to shop with the kids. Like it's one of my favorite things, but I went to Sam's and I was really scared that I was going to see someone that I knew and they were going to be like, what the heck? I thought you had 2 boys and a girl, and I would have to explain the situation. And I did see a coworker at Sam's and I thought, oh gosh, this is going to be terrible. And I can remember she came up and she was like, oh my God, your kids are so amazingly cute. They're the best, and she just loved all over them. And I felt like, okay, wait, this is not that big of a deal. Like the world at large is more accepting than I thought. if I had to tell people that, I would say like number one, the world's more accepting, and number two, like, I was a roadblock. I was an impediment to this process. By me wanting to shelter and protect like I was a part of the problem. And so I think for me, getting out of my own way and realizing that the world is accepting.
Yeah, and I think to piggyback off of that a little bit, one piece of what I wish folks knew, which is what I wish Pat and I knew early on, is that when we let our children lead and when we believe our children when they tell us who they are, we are so much better for it, and they just blossom in joy. So there was definitely a point where we were kind of negotiating with her when she was really young. She was like 4, and we had picked out all the outfits, right? The orange cargo shorts with the matching monster truck shirt. And she was like not down to wear that stuff. And a hand-me-down old dress from an older cousin happened into the house, and I had set it aside for our second daughter. And Oliver, got a hold of it, and she got it into her dresser. And at first we were like, okay, you can wear this for make-believe, but then we're negotiating, you can't wear it, when we go outside, and then you can wear it on Tuesdays, but not. And we were creating all these arbitrary rules out of fear, and we were negotiating with her and not believing her when she so clearly was saying, to feel fully comfortable and express myself as who I am, this is what I want to wear, and this is how I want to exist. And once we did a little bit of research, we did some processing, and we really let go of that kind of clothing expression negotiation, and she just blossomed. She stopped throwing tantrums every day when we got dressed. She was happier. She was glowing. She was lively when we went out in public. And then she really led the process. Like there was a time when she would wear dresses and express feminine at home and with close friends, but not in public. And then she was ready to try at Sam's but not yet at school. And she really led in her comfort. She led the process of really expressing herself fully in all the places. And so I just think that when I talk to parents who are going through this, the first thing I say, they're like, what do I do? Or I'm at a loss. How do I help my child? Believe your child and let your child lead. I know that I was raised in a home where because of that kind of protective mentality, I don't know if I was taught to like trust kids when kids are telling us what they need and who they are. And when Pat and I learned how to do that, I think it really flipped the switch for Oliver's experience and for her to be able to fully exist as she is.
Well, there's one story about my first grade teacher. My teacher was like, Oliver's a boy that likes to wear dresses. And then I was like, no, I'm not. I'm a girl who wears dresses, and that's who I am. And that's a story that I remember very clearly. And it's like a me moment where I show who I am, and no one else makes my decisions or tells what gender I am or what I do. Because I'm not a boy that wears dresses. I'm a girl.
And do you remember what you decided when that happened in that specific moment after your teacher had said you're a boy that wears dresses? You came home, and do you remember what we talked about?
No.
The pronouns.
Oh, yeah. So I wanted to change my pronouns from he, him to she, her. And we had a long conversation about it.
Do you remember what you decided that you definitely wanted?
To wear dresses.
And your pronouns?
To be she, her.
After you told your teacher about your new pronouns and then you spent the rest of the year with her, how do you feel like? Do you feel like she accepted you? Do you feel like she embraced you? Do you feel like she learned some things? What was that experience like?
I feel like, after that, she was an amazing teacher, and she just accepted me for who I am, and was like, this is who Oliver is, so this is how I'm going to treat her, and I'm not going to treat her any differently than any other girl in this classroom. She was one of my favorite teachers. And,
and like for us, like I was talking about earlier, like we had a meeting with her after that thing where the teacher said that Oliver was a boy wearing girls' clothing, and we had a meeting with her, and we both kind of went in. At least I did. I went in really aggressively. I went into like say, you have really messed up here, and you have done this, and you have done this to offend our child. And I was like kind of hot, I was upset. And then this teacher really just said, well, I didn't know any better. I didn't really understand the situation. And she was expressing kind of the way that we knew at that point. And so kind of that was another groundbreaking thing for me to discover, this older person, this person who I thought maybe wouldn't have it in them to change or to accept someone, they were ready to do that. And she was all in. Like from that meeting, from that second, she just was all in. And I will say she was an amazing teacher, and she was very, very good. And she did great things. And so I am so appreciative that, with her flexibility to kind of adjust on the fly. And like I said, like the world at large is more accepting than I gave it credit for. And I went in there with this like, Papa Bear kind of like thing to protect. And really, we just needed to give that teacher the specific tools to do this. And then she was able to just like take that and run.
There's not really anything I'd like to share. Just, I'm glad everyone was willing to accept me for who I am. And everyone just understands that I'm me. And my friend Ingrid, one of my best friends, she doesn't say like, you can't be a girl, you're a boy. She just runs with it. And she's like, as long as you're nice to me, I can be your friend. It doesn't matter your gender or anything or what you've done. It just matters how you treat that person or something like that.
And Ingrid's been your friend since you were babies, right? So she's kind of been with you and seen the evolution.
Like there's stories, there's stories like this out there all over the world, and they're there for you to read. And so like for Kat and I think we came into, we were really passionate about like social justice kind of issues. And the idea of gender, at least for me, didn't initially fall into that particular category of social justice until later, until like I knew and experienced a transgender person. So like I think like I said, we were passionate about social justice, but like I didn't really have the tools or the understanding to know that like this gender equity issue fell into that particular category. And so like I think, and like I said, there's anecdotal stories out there of all kinds of stuff. And like I'm a track coach, so I particularly gravitate towards stories of athletes, and that's kind of a hot button issue and topic right now in society. And there are stories that you can read about all day long, every day, that are just amazing stories of people doing amazing things despite discrimination. So like, I think that stuff's just out there for you to view and find for sure.
Well, I'm really glad that my parents, my friends in pod school, my sister, my brother are accepting me for who I am and are just letting me have fun with them and play with them and not saying like that your gender change isn't getting in the way of anything. As long as you're my friend, then you're my friend. There's nothing wrong about that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of Oliver's experience, because she's just a normal kid, right? Like she's just a little girl, and I think that's also, part of it is it's good to educate and tell her story. And at the end of the day, she's Oliver. She's 9 years old. She loves playing video games and hanging out with her brother and sister, and really would love for pod school to be over. And I think a lot of what Pat and I have learned and around how to best support her is something that feels universal to how we should treat each other as human beings, that we should stay curious, that we should seek first to understand each other, that we should be finding spaces where people are that don't have stories that sound just like ours, that we shouldn't accept the narrative about this person or that person at face value, but instead we should go find human beings and be in community and in life with them. And like Pat said, a lot of the really scary legislation that's coming down right now is targeting trans kids. And if you really understood what that's about, it's just about kids who want to play youth sports with their friends. And I just would really encourage people to always dig deeper than what the headline tells you or what the first glance gives you, because there's always so much more to our stories than that. Yeah.
Another thing, like I would probably close on this, and like an exercise I started to do about, maybe it's been a while, maybe like 5 years ago. Like at the end of the day, like I like close the day out and I brush my teeth and I take my contacts out and put my glasses on. I stand in front of the mirror and I, ask myself a couple questions, and I say, like, did I do this day to the best of my ability? And then I also say, I always ask myself, am I on the right side of history in these things, right? So, and I'm super proud to feel like, yes, I did this day well, and I'm on the right side of history in terms of this particular issue, because I do think we're moving towards, like, this society as a whole is moving towards more acceptance of all people groups. And so, like, in 10 years, am I going to look back and be proud of the work that I did and the example that I set and the way that I lived my life in that time? And I think now, like, I will be really proud of that. And I will think, like, I've been on the right side of history, and I have, like, advocated for the oppressed and tried to be a voice for those who are marginalized. And so, like, I think asking yourself those questions and being reflective about the way you've done each day is really important, for sure.
Thanks for listening in on my podcast, and I hope you can help make the world a better place by supporting people like me.
Now, designers, it's up to you. You will use the simple 4-step process of feel, imagine, do, and share to understand this topic more fully and prepare to take action. We're excited you've joined the Design for Change movement. We're rooting for you.